Shut up and sit down.
Welcome once again to the Shite podcast show. I'm your host Mark Kearns with you on the 98 podcast. It is a very big podcast today because I'm joined by two guests. I'm joined by Dan Strauss, the Raspberry Ape. He has a podcast called the Raspberry Ape Podcast. Check it out. Mariousz Domasat, my head coach of Hosaria and my coach, joins me back on the Shite podcast show once again. Last time I was talking to Mariusz. It went over really well. I got a lot of compliments about the show. People really liked it, so it was good to have him back. Dan Strauss is a person I've been looking forward to having on the podcast for a while. Brilliant guillotine seminar. I actually trained with him after the podcast. Learned so much from just his knowledge that he has on just that one tech. I think he only showed one technique and spent 2.5 hours showing that technique, and at no point you're like, oh well, I actually knew that. Every preconceived idea I had about guillotines, and I've been training jiu-jitsu 6 years, were wrong and were instantly corrected. Absolutely brilliant knowledge on the guillotine. Really good to talk to him. I talked to him about his fight with AJ Agazari. I talked about Jake Shields. We talked about the sport itself. The professional end side compared to competitions like ADCC and IBJJF. If you're a fan of Jiu-Jitsu, you'll really like this podcast. But even if you're not, Dan Strauss is such a good personality that you're probably going to be entertained anyway. So have a listen, see what you think. And here it is, Mariousz Domasat and Dan Strauss on the Shite Talk podcast show.
I had about 50 seminars last year around the UK teaching the guillotine. This year I've taken a little bit more time to myself, do a little bit more training, but I've been trying to get over to Ireland to train with Mariusz for a while, so I'm over here doing a couple of seminars and choking people still.
And thank you very much for finding me.
It's kind of the modern life for the modern jiu-jitsu guy is traveling around the world, doing these immense amount of seminars, and then still trying to make time for your own training. So
yeah.
How's that, first of all, on your body? Because you're in your 30s now.
I'm not in my 30s yet. The beard ages me, but I'm 28. So, but my body's that of probably someone in their mid 60s or 70s.
Jesus,
I had a tough fave around.
We're the same age.
It is, and. Like last year, it was very difficult to train last year because I wasn't doing international seminars last year. I did some international seminars the year beforehand. I've done basically 3 consecutive years of seminar tours. Each year it was getting bigger and bigger. Last year I stayed purely to the UK. I did a few in Scotland, but otherwise, all mainland UK and England. So, but even with that, it's a lot of driving. So
yeah.
Usually I train Saturdays and Sundays. When you're doing seminars, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you can't do that. But more the travel takes it out of you. I put in 15 hours of driving in a weekend sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you get back on Monday, you've got like 3-4 days to recover. And then Friday it's back up north somewhere or to do another 3 or 4 days of seminars.
And do you then on a certain day, on a Sunday or when you're ever resting, do you schedule out your week? You're like, I'm going to be in this country, or I'm going to be in this gym. I'm going to have to plan shit or else I'm not going to get training in myself or yeah.
The short answer is no. I know that there's a lot of other people who will train when they do seminars. I tend not to roll when I do seminars ever, pretty much.
Yeah. I
find that if I'm going to spend 3 hours or 3.5 hours at a gym, I want to be able to give as much information as possible. I feel like that's what I'm there for. And if you do start rolling with people at seminars, you have a seminar of 20, 30, 40, 50 people. How many people can you roll within an hour?
Yeah.
A whole hour of rolling. My cardio ain't that good, After a 2-hour seminar, 3-hour seminar, doing an hour of rolling is going to be difficult. But
let's face it, everyone wants to just...
That's it.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to... But, everyone wants to... even down to simple stuff. It sounds stupid, like, I do a 3-hour seminar, I wouldn't have eaten for 3 or 4 hours, you
Yeah.
know. So like I'm gonna be hungry, I want to eat, and then you do get people who are going crazy trying to tap. You know, some people are respectful, some people not so much. Some people want to prove a point. You can pick up injuries very easily that way. But more the fact. The reason I don't roll at seminars, I want to spend all of my time possible working with everyone. Yeah. And when you roll with someone, it's a really, you know, for lack of a better word, it's a really intimate experience for that one person. But you can't roll with everyone. It's just impossible. So I prefer to really focus on trying to pass on some knowledge.
Yeah, because I often see Keenan Cornelius, who often posts he rolled with like 100 people. And like
I just can't do that. I just can't do that. I have the cardio for it. My body's too broken already.
Yeah, I've watched the videos, and like most of them are kind of the lighter belts, and then he'll roll a few black belts. But like you're going to even get a crazy purple belt or like a mad blue belt who tries to just dive on something and crank into try to get a tap, thinking, oh, he'll be able to defend this. Yeah,
and you know, it's just one of those things. When you're a full-time athlete, your body's your the way that you make your living, and it's your tool, and you got to look after it. And sometimes it's smart to just play it a little bit more carefully.
Mariusz, just make sure your the button is pressed up on, because you come in very. There you go. There you go. Yeah,
that'd be better.
You hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, because you're very quiet.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to talk about is some of the matches you've been in.
Sure.
AJ Agazari is one part you get asked a lot about.
Yes, yeah, you know, that's even now probably the most fun I've ever had on a jiu-jitsu mat. You know, that was over 3 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago now. So it was a while at Polaris 2. Yeah. And yeah, man, we just had a good tear up. You know, the guys.
I think it was 2014.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like fucking 5 years ago.
No, I think it was 15 or 16. I don't think it was quite that long ago, but it was a while ago. Okay, it was a while ago for sure. I think, you know, Polaris 2. I was actually matched up with him on Polaris 1, but I picked up an injury. And Ollie Geddes stepped in, and he kind of did the whole AJ Agar's arm, you know, took the piss out of him a little bit.
Beef with, you know, you was trying to avenge like Ollie.
So, and I had Ollie in my corner when I fought AJ. So, man, it was a lot of fun.
Because like I was going to ask you, like, how much of that was actually built up animosity? Because like it looked like it was getting very, very like kind of intense.
Personal. So everyone asked me this. This is like the most classic question, which is, you know, was it real? And like the answer is, yeah, it was real. I think my personality when I'm fighting and my personality when I'm just chilling are two very different people. Yeah. So I knew what AJ does. I knew the way that AJ grapples and the way that he fights and competes, and he's trying to get in your head and he's trying to roll you up, and he's a good grappler, but he's not a fantastic grappler, but he manages to actually get really great results by kind of getting into people's heads. And yeah, he does like to put on a show, and it kind of adds to the narrative of the match.
But in my opinion, you get into his head
during
that match.
You know, so that was my whole plan, which was, you may be able to beat me, but you never get into my head. You know, that's never going to happen. So you know, even stuff as simple as the mouth guard, you know. Yeah. So with Ollie Geddes, he starts doing this thing with his mouth guard. He'll put his mouth guard in, he'll take it out, he'll put it behind his ear. Yeah. You know, he'll roll it a little bit more, he'll stick it back in his mouth, kind of taking the piss. Yeah. And I said months beforehand, if this guy takes that mouth guard out of his mouth and puts it behind his ear, I'm gonna grab it and I'm gonna fucking throw it.
Throw it away.
And then a couple of minutes into the match, the first break, there were a few grappling like takedown exchanges, and there was just one break where I was in open guard, and I don't think that he had the mouth guard in his mouth to begin with. I think it felt like he like took it out, put it in, and then as soon as he put it in, I was like laser vision locked on that mouth guard, and then he went to grab it, and he didn't even get time to put it in his ear. I grabbed it out of his hand and threw it over the shoulder, tossed it into the crowd. It's still under a chair somewhere in Cardiff, and and then gave him the finger. Don't try that shit with me. But we had loads of fun exchanges. But you know, like, and then afterwards we shook hands and we chatted to each other, and we had a drink with each other.
Plus, it was like, you know, really entertaining match. You know, lots of skills on the display.
No, after it, like, even AJ was really very complimentary about your skills, and it was a pure respect after that. But like, Mariusz, you're a world-class referee. You've refereed at the Worlds in ADCC. Yeah. Have you ever been watching a match like that where you're like, these guys actually might go to blows?
It happened a few times. It happened like, some matches are so personal.
Yeah.
You just see it straight away. They won't go for a bump before the match. You see there's like fire in the eyes. They just want to hurt each other, It happened a few times.
I think the referee did a really good job of letting you antagonize each other.
Yeah.
Without breaking up and saying, be respectful, be respectful.
Yeah.
He let it play out. Because I think you have to realize that it's a show.
Yeah. Well, this is the other thing as well. Is like I have nothing. It wasn't personal.
No.
Like I really don't take anything personally. You really, really struggle. I'm yet to be antagonized on a real personal level where someone's upset me and I really want to. And there's like a deep, like from the core of who Daniel Strauss is, hates this person. That definitely wasn't the case with AJ. This was me as a competitor who, had wanted to have a fierce competition with AJ, who's also a competitor. AJ, I assume, doesn't take stuff personally. I wasn't taking stuff personally, so we were kind of. It was real, but it wasn't personal, if that makes sense. Whereas you'll have guys who won't shake hands afterwards, who will slap each other,
disrespectful, and
like Jake Shields really doesn't like AJ.
Oh,
that is really personal.
Yeah, he slapped him, didn't he?
But that's there are some people.
But Uriah and Nikki now on Polaris.
Yeah, that was just kind of Uriah was being silly during that. But like with Jake Shields, there are people out there who. I don't want to say I like Jake, so I don't want to. I don't say this in a derogatory way, but almost had not a fragile ego, but they won't take shit. They really they don't want to be disrespected in any way.
Yeah.
Now I can disrespect myself, and I don't mind people disrespecting me because I don't take it personally. I really don't.
Because you have distance to the whole situation yourself.
I really don't have the sort of ego that gets bruised very easily, and I'm not saying that anyone else does, but there's just some people where don't talk to me like that. Don't act like that around me. I don't care if it's for entertainment. I don't care if it's for the cameras. Jake Shields took it really personally. So when he, when he fought AJ, it looked like that same heated exchange that we had, but that did come to blows. Yeah, because he really, really didn't like him.
Yeah, well, he comes on, the scrap pack, obviously, and you're bringing up with lads like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same as any of the Diaz brothers. Yeah. If you talk some shit, they're gonna take it real personally. Whereas I just kind of have a laugh with them.
Yeah, that's what I think. Your styles match up brilliantly in terms of grappling abilities, but your personalities match. When you fought Jake Shields, I think the opposite happened because you are very. You just basically cancelled each other out. It was a kind of you were playing a lot from guard.
Yes,
and that's because you probably obviously knew he's going to be trying to smash past you from open guard. What if you were to go into that match differently? What would you try to attack it differently, or
do you know what Jake Shields is an excellent grappler. He really is.
Wrestling.
He's an excellent wrestler as well, and. The plan was I did not expect Jake to shut down as much as he did, and in hindsight I made a mistake. I watched his match with because basically the way that I pick matches for Polaris is I watch Polaris and I go, that was cool, I want to try and do that. So I watched Jake's match with AJ, and I thought it was a really exciting match, and I thought I'd love to go against Jake, and he's a legend in MMA, and he's a really accomplished grappler, and I'd love to go against him and see how I fared. I should have considered actually his style against my style, and that it would be a very boring match. I was shocked that he, at how content he was to shut the game down, basically. There were times during that match where my legs were open and he made no attempts to pass the guard. I was trying he'd been training a lot with the Danaher guys. I was trying to give him every opportunity to actually sit back and attack the legs. Just wanted to get some sort of scramble going because, he had two... guard pass, maybe one guard pass, but guard was instantly regained, and then he just kind of sat in the position. I think at times he had his hands locked behind my back, which is just, you can't really do anything from there.
Have no hips.
So I was getting really frustrated off my back. I'm looking up and going, man, I'm bored. I'm bored right now. Yeah. I can't imagine what everyone else is feeling. So what I would do differently, definitely not saying that I could out wrestle Jake. Honestly, I wouldn't take that match again.
Yeah,
is the short answer, because I actually don't think. I think that if he wanted to do the same, he would do the same.
Yeah.
Because Dan, I think personally, he came to win the match, not to entertain.
Yeah, I agree, and that's not what I come to do.
Yeah.
So he, I wouldn't take that match again because I'm worried that it would be exactly the same, whatever I did. I try and stand up with them a little bit more just because I feel a lot more comfortable in my stand-up now than I did back then because I've been training a little bit of stand-up stuff. Not saying that I'd be able to out-wrestle him, but I think it would be, at the very least, we could spend 5 minutes standing up and 10 minutes in my closed guard opposed to 1 minute standing up and 14 minutes in my closed guard. But
Yeah, matchmaking for fighting, especially grappling, is because it's kind of weird when you're picking for like ADCCs, you want the best fighting the best. But realistically, if you're honest with yourself, if you're a matchmaker, you want to kind of balance between a really big name who has an opponent that can make it to the crowd look like he can challenge and threaten them, but your man can work and do his stuff, basically what people came to hear to see. And that's for like matchmakers for Paul Harris, EBI, anything. Like, it's so hard to do because you don't know what person's going to show up on the day.
Yeah.
What training camp, what's going in the training camp where they're saying to them, oh, you have to win this, or oh, this can be a big opportunity for you.
You know, when it comes to matchmaking for grappling, really what all of the grappling shows should be looking to do is to, I think, as a grappling community worldwide in general, our goal is very simply to increase the profile of the sport, to spread awareness about the sport, to make the sport more accessible for people that are outside of grappling. So I think that you should have your tournaments that are purely who is the best in the world. The ADCC is a brilliant tournament because there is no disputing, and the Mundials for the equivalent for the gi, whoever wins the ADCC is the best grappler in the world in their weight division.
That for the next 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
For the next 2 years, they're the best grappler. Whoever wins the absolute division is the best grappler, full stop, in the world at the moment. Whoever wins the gi division at the Mundials is the greatest gi grappler in their weight division every single year. So you only need one of those tournaments, one for gi and one for no gi. Every other tournament should actually have the goal not of deciding who's the best, because we know. You know, every 2 years we have a big show that decides, just like the Olympics. We decide who's the best 100-meter runner every 4 years. You don't need to have other races. So the other races, because racing is hugely commercial, but jiu-jitsu isn't. So all the other shows should be about building the sport, making it entertaining, making it more accessible for people outside the sport. So when it comes to matchmaking, like you're talking, you've got to be able. There's basically two ways that you can sell a fight. You can sell a fight or a match, whatever you want to call it. The one way is that it means something. So that is you have two really big names and you actually don't know who's going to win, and you're really genuinely intrigued to see who's going to win this match. So, for example, Keenan Cornelius versus Craig Jones.
That came into my head when you said that.
It's a great match. It wasn't. No. It was a boring match, but it was a great match on paper that puts asses in seats, that get people buying the pay-per-view, get people signing up the fight pass, because I'm really interested how this is going to go down. It doesn't really matter how the fight goes, even if the fight is boring, because you're answering a question that you intrinsically have, which is what's going to happen. So even if it's crap, you go, that was crap, but that answers the question, what would happen. Then the other kind of match you have is something that you don't think of, that you don't care about. You don't have any investment in the result and actually how it goes. You just want it to be entertaining, you know? So that is your me versus AJ. It doesn't really mean anything. We're not in the same weight division. We're not two forces colliding in an obvious match. No one's interested in that.
Please the crowd.
But you want to please the crowd. So you kind of got to categorize these two things as matchmaking. I think for a tournament like Polaris, you need one or two important matches that look good on paper and people want to know the result, and the rest of them, it doesn't matter. They just need to be entertaining. And a lot of the interesting thing, a lot of the time, how do you have an entertaining match? You have a submission. Sometimes you need to unbalance. You need asymmetry. You need someone who actually is probably going to submit the other person.
Well, your match between AJ and yourself, there was no submission, and it was excitement. There are matches that,
and of course, and on the last Polaris, Ethan Kredenstein and Ash Williams put on a great show, and there wasn't a finish. A very exciting match. So you're going to have people, but it's really hard to predict an exciting match like that. You know, it is very difficult to predict that.
That was one of the best matches.
I think the problem is when we have like really, really two top names. They really want to win the match. They don't care much, because if we're talking, especially when there's something private going on between them, or they know each other for a long time, they really want to win, both of them.
That happens in every sport.
And then it may be a guarantee of boring fight. You know. But like you say, I absolutely agree, Dan. But when you have, let's say, two prospects or two guys which are just want to show their skills to the world.
Yeah.
Let's say Polaris is amazing platform for them. Now Pantheon in UK, Grapplefest, like, you know, and UK at the moment is like, you know, phenomenal country if we're talking about promoting grappling sub-only tournaments. Myself personally, most of the matches I enjoy at Polaris was the prelim cards.
Absolutely.
And main cards, just from time to time, I really enjoyed, like, I mean, like open fights.
Yeah.
How many open matches you saw, like, you know, on the main cards?
Yeah.
You fought there a few times yourself. You know, you know how it is. But prelims, those guys just want to go there and show what they got. They just go for exchanges, you know.
Yeah. Who does it the best? Which promotion does it best? Like, out of all of them that you've been at or you've seen, because you've been at all. You've been in EBI, you've been in Quintet, you've been on Polaris, you've matchmaking.
Who does what the best? Matchmaking?
Make the most entertaining.
I believe Quintet.
Yeah.
And I believe this for a very simple reason. One, mismatches that I've kind of already explained that you're going to have the subs. Yeah. But two, there is a very unique narrative to the night, the event, the show.
Innovative, I could say.
You know, when you, and I've explained this to a few people, and which is why Quintet is incredibly entertaining. The first show was one of the best shows. You know, the greatest, one of the greatest days of my entire life. You know, just an awesome experience. You know, because I had good subs. I managed to fight Sakurai. You know, so I just had a great day. But
as loads of people was talking about your matches. You know, like you've been known in Europe area and UK. You was a star already. But Quintet probably you know showed your name internationally.
Yeah, and you know that was a great show. But then the one in Vegas. You know, people got really upset because Alpha Male brought in Gordon Ryan last minute and he just won the tournament for them. You know, they won the entire tournament. They beat two other teams and no one won a single fight apart from Gordon. But anyway, we digress. The first round, which I didn't have a chance to compete in, unfortunately, but the first round between Polaris team and 10th Planet team was by far the most entertaining half an hour of grappling I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was there and I was warming up and cooling down because it just did not. Nothing goes to plan in Quintet.
No,
it doesn't. It can't go to plan. There are too many variables. It's so exciting, and you know that's on YouTube for free. People, 10th Planet versus Polaris team in Quintet 3, I believe it was, or maybe Quintet 2. I can't remember. But the one in Vegas, it was incredible, really entertaining. And the reason for that is the difference between Quintet and I'll give you three categories of tournaments, 3 categories of events, and like with any. When you look at a sport event, what makes a great sport event is not the sport itself. It's the narrative. It's the story.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything in the you know. Do you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the last. Don't get me wrong. The final season was a.
Haven't seen it. No spoilers.
The final season was an abortion. Don't get me wrong. But what does Tyrion say? Okay. It's all about who has the best story.
Yeah.
Now, who had the best story? I don't actually think had the best story. But the point is, story is important. You know, that's why the film industry is massive. That's why like celebrity culture is massive, because you're following a narrative. So if you take that into the fight world, why do you think Conor McGregor's such a big star? Because there's a story there. Okay, everyone's following him. Every fight has its own story, all the hype and everything. So let me split the 3 different formats in grappling into 3 separate categories. You have single matches, super fights, Polaris. You have tournament style matches like EBI. Or in IBJJF as well, but they're not really a show, but like any tournament style match, knockout tournament. And then you have these team tournaments, which are really new now, which is Quintet, right? Now, if you look at the narrative, when it comes to the super fight, you can have an overarching narrative of a contender fighting up and, someone, if they win this fight, they might have a shot at the belt. Once they've brought in belts, it's added another dimension. But for the most part, the narrative starts and finishes in one match. So you and me are going to have a fight. The whole story is just our fight, the build up to our fight. And once whoever wins, and that's the end of it. It's very isolated. Now with a tournament, every eventuality in all of the first, let's say, 8 matches will affect the next match, will affect the next match. So you have a continuous narrative throughout the night. You're watching this guy, which is why tournaments are fun.
Constant twists.
Because you watch like this guy, and you got the favourites, and you got the underdogs, and remember, Craig Jones had one of the best stories of ADCC because he was the underdog, and he comes out and he beats this guy, and he beats that guy, and then Keenan shuts him down, and all of this stuff. So in a tournament, you can affect the narrative with every match. So every match is more important because it affects the next one. But it affects it in a very, almost a binary way because it's a win or loss.
Yeah.
So there's only, there's a lot of different, if you have an 8-man tournament, there's a 1,000 different combinations that could happen, but only 1,000.
Yeah.
Now, you go to the quintet. There are an infinite number of different scenarios that could happen because one guy could take out 5 guys. One guy could take out one. One guy could lose to one. One guy could draw with one. One guy could beat that guy and then make this guy a bit tired, which changes the way he fights his next one. But he makes the next guy. So there's this appeal to quintet because it has this rippling butterfly effect on the rest of the tournament, on the rest of the show. You are hanging on to every single second of every single match because when you're watching a favorite, for example, I remember in the first quintet we had Craig Jones. He said beforehand, he goes, I'm going to take out the whole Sambo team.
Yeah,
that's what he said. He said, I'm going to go first, I'm going to take them all out. So then you're watching it and you're watching him get tired. He's had two matches now. Now he's starting to get tired, and this third guy, we didn't think that we weren't even warming up for that first round because we thought Craig is going to take everyone out. So then he gets to the third guy and he's tired because you're hanging on, and you guys, oh man, he's not going to get the tap. So like, who's next? And then he's going to fight this guy, and this guy's going to be fresh, and everything changes. So it brings, dynamically, brings you into the to the show, and it makes you feel that actually. I think something that is underrated, which is how do you get interaction from every single person in the audience and every single person watching at home. Like how can you do that? How can you engage thousands and thousands of people at the same time? And the answer is make them feel like they can think about it, if that makes sense. So when you don't need to watch MMA or watch jiu-jitsu or know what's going on to work out that guy looks tired. That guy's had 3 matches already. How's that going to affect the rest of it? And then you start going, man, well, these guys have 2 guys left, and then who's going to start next? And what about the weight difference? This is going to be a 4-minute match instead of an 8-minute match. Maybe he can stall him out. And that brings you into the tournament as a fan. And you start to go, I'm starting to work out. I'm starting to make predictions. I'm starting to analyze it myself. So that's why I think that quintet is the most exciting format. And what I love about quintet, and it goes back to what I was saying before, which is it does not matter. It means nothing. Honestly, it means nothing. And the beauty of a show that can have such a strong narrative, that can get everyone so invested, when essentially at the end of the day, it means nothing other than congratulations, you were the best team on the day and we had a good show. Whereas when you go to the Mundials, it means everything. When you go to ADCC, it means everything. When you're fighting for the Polaris title, it means a lot. But when you're fighting a quintet, it's a team. No one cares. It's an individual sport, but a team wins. So it really doesn't mean that much, and that's the beauty of it.
How did the Polaris come to have a team at quintet? How did that happen?
So the Polaris guys are connected to Scramble. The Polaris is run by 50% Scramble and 50% Tatami. And the Scramble guys have a connection with Sakuraba.
Oh, right.
So they sponsored him. And that's the reason that I went back to Scramble.
Matt, Plus Matt speaks Japanese.
And he speaks Japanese. He's got a good connection in Japan. He knows a lot of the guys out there. So Sakuraba wanted to set up this tournament, and he contacted Matt to help him get some guys. And he goes, okay, well, let's get why don't we put the Polaris team together? And it all kind of snowballed from there. But I got that first message, which was, do you want to be... Sakuraba's running a tournament. I said, yeah.
Come on.
He said Sakuraba's running. Yeah, I mean,
even if you
doesn't matter where it is, doesn't matter when it is. Well,
probably if you have 2 legs chopped off, you still
I'm
say yes.
I'm still there. And it was meant to be in LA. And I said yeah, and then he goes, "Nah, it's in Japan." I'm like, God damn it! I've never been to the homeland. I've never been to Japan. I've always wanted to fight in Japan, and now I'm going to fight in Japan, and I end up fighting in Japan against Sakuraba.
And the way you fought, man, come on.
It was
come true, really.
It was honestly a beautiful day. It really was. Yeah.
That actually, you could see when you were grappling that it meant so much.
Do you know what the nice thing about that was? There's a really interesting dynamic as an athlete. You're no longer fighting for yourself. You're fighting for the good of a team, which actually you become quite close to. Half the guys I'd just met, I had never met before. I had very brief interactions with, but we got there a few days beforehand, and we spent 3 or 4 days side by side, eating. Hanging out, walking around Tokyo in this weird city where no one spoke the language, and you actually get really close. And so you're fighting for a lot more than just yourself. You're fighting for the rest of the team. You don't want to let the team down a lot more than you don't want to let yourself down. So I could have been in a really unfortunate position, and it could have happened very easily, where I was fighting Sakuraba first. Yeah. And in that scenario, it would have been... I'm so grateful that did not happen, because if that had happened, I would have been really torn between my desire to when you're at Quintet, if you lose your first match, you've taken something away from your team. You've taken away a place. If you draw your first match, you haven't taken anything and you haven't brought anything. In order for you to bring something significant to the team, you need to win one fight and draw another fight minimum.
They get 2 then.
So had I stepped up against Sakuraba as my first match, I would have had to have gone there with a different attitude. I wouldn't have been able to enjoy myself. I would have had to have submitted him. And that, honestly, I did not want to submit him. I really didn't want to do that, because I love this man like you wouldn't believe. He genuinely is. People think that, but he genuinely has always been my idol. And the fact that I had won not one, but I'd submitted 2 people meant that the third person I did absolutely. I'd already made my huge donation to the team. I'd wiped out half of the team.
200%.
I knew that Sakuraba couldn't submit me, so I knew that I'd taken out 3 people, and therefore I knew that I could go in there and I could just really enjoy the moment and embrace the moment, and I could not have written it any better.
Will Polaris actually adopt a kind of a team versus team, or even like a Submission Underground where they have actually tag teams, which I watched, I think their event that was on Fight Pass. That was actually really entertaining.
I haven't actually seen it. How is it?
Do you know what? It's actually...
What's the rules?
So they're in a cage and you have to stay at opposite ends of the cage, and let's say you're in a heel hook and you're at your tag team partner, you can tag in and
the person has to let go.
I haven't seen it, but
sounds crazy, right?
Yeah,
exactly. But you could have a guy and could take his back and you could tag your partner in behind you, and
like WWE.
A few seconds you can hold him until your partner gets on him, and it opens it up, but there's like a time limit. So even if you submit somebody, fight continues
that's
to happen.
Unpredictable.
That's unpredictable. There's a part of me that says that's awesome, but I think that might be moving too far into the gimmick.
It may be dangerous as well.
But why not? I'm 100% in support of people being creative, people being inventive, people trying different things. So I'm all for it. But in terms of Polaris adopting a quintet format, for Polaris, I want to say 8. One of those. One of the Polarises. The Polaris meant to happen in December. Or the Polaris that did happen in December last year was meant to have. That was Polaris 8. It's the one that I fought Ishii on. That was meant to have a quintet beforehand.
Okay.
The original plan was to have basically run a small quintet followed by an entire Polaris event. And then they kind of combined together, where Polaris was going to run a quintet instead of the prelims, and followed by the main card. And then it was just going to be too much hassle, so they ended up ditching the idea altogether. I think that they should bring in some form of team grappling. I don't think you need to... people get so... There is no perfect format. And EBI's proved that. And I think Quintet at some point will prove that. I think Quintet right now is the most exciting format that is out there. But there was a time, remember just a few years ago when EBI had a few really good tournaments
Everyone was talking about EBI rules.
Everyone was running EBI rule tournaments. Every sub-only show was running EBI overtime. Now, after a couple of years, people start working out how to game the system a little bit. And it very quickly went out of fashion. But people have this habit of seeing someone do something different. It works. and then that's the greatest format in the world. Everyone has to copy this exactly.
Jump on, yeah.
You don't have to. You know, you really don't have to. You can like be creative, come up with other ideas, think up other things, try them, do the shit ones, do the good ones, do everything in between. So I think that Polaris should implement a team grappling event in some capacity, and I don't think it necessarily needs to follow a direct format from Quintet.
Yeah. But you think it's gonna happen anytime soon?
I've spoken to Matt and I've given him my ideas. I've got lots of ideas. I'm a good ideas, man. I've given him my ideas, and he's always very hesitant. But
Matt is open-minded.
Hopefully, if he's listening to this, he should listen to me. He needs to get me on board more, and he needs an outside the box idea, man.
He's enough things on his plate as is. Like.
Exactly. So let me take care of some.
Yeah, exactly. You have quite a lot on your plate, traveling around the countries.
Yeah, but I like to stay busy.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to stay busy, you know, and stuff like this is really enjoyable. That's the whole thing. Like, I like to be a part of grappling in every bit of its capacity, as a competitor, as a coach, as a, you know, doing podcasts and doing other things, and help, you know, commentating. And I try and do as much as I can in grappling, because really my goal is to see the sport grow and to inspire other people to help the sport grow.
And I think this is exactly what you're doing. You know, you get involved in it, in not only like as a competitor or coach, but like in so many different levels. Yeah. You know, and people are aware of, you know, more and more people like, you know, regular people getting, like, you know, involved in the sport, knowing about the sport.
I was actually thinking this myself. I don't know, because I'm in the sport, I feel like it's growing. Because I remember I was in a hobby airsoft shop once, and I was chatting around, and it's like, oh, is the sport going? He goes, oh yeah, the sport's going massive. No one fucking does it. Oh, hobby airsoft.
Yeah, 100%. You know, there's this thing where like Roger Gracie's Tom Cruise, you know, is our Tom Cruise. You know, he's like the most famous person in the whole world, and like if you saw Roger Gracie walking down the street, you'd freak out, because you're seeing the greatest crowd. If you saw Hicks and Gracie in Tesco's, you'd lose your mind. Yeah. But no one else would.
No. Yeah.
You know, so we live in an echo chamber, like every community does. Every community believes that their community is massive, because you surround yourself with people of similar ideology and similar ideas, and who like the same things. I do think the sport is growing, and me and Mariusz was talking the other day about the number of people who quit jiu-jitsu. Okay. Yeah. Now this is a terrible thing. We're not going to get too deep into that, but actually, in a way, it's an advantage. Okay, because there is a like, you're not going to have 1 million people in the UK training jiu-jitsu anytime soon. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Constantly train jiu-jitsu, but if you have and kind of just to put a spin, a silver lining on this, otherwise, and as a coach, I've been teaching jiu-jitsu for 13 years. You know, a long time, about 12 years, and I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe more, maybe thousands, people start training, either quit after a few weeks, a few months, a few years, 10 years, whatever. People come and people go. But when those people leave the sport, they know what it is. If they see a jiu-jitsu t-shirt, they'll say, hey, I used to train jiu-jitsu. You know, they might buy a jiu-jitsu t-shirt. They might watch a jiu-jitsu event. Yeah. You know, so all of these things, there's a silver lining. The more people come into the sport and leave, there's still people who got really exposed to the sport on a more intimate level. And that actually helps it grow. Getting people in the door to train 1 month of jiu-jitsu, you know, imagine if you could click your fingers and put 1 month of jiu-jitsu training into the mind of every single person in the country. Well, now everyone's watching Polaris. It does, because you don't need, you know, because they understand what it is, you know, and everyone's interested in what's going on the ground in an MMA match.
Will it be ever on TV, do you think? Do you ever think like it
is on TV.
It's getting there.
It's just on the small channels. You know? Pantheon was on TV. You know, I fought in a tournament many years ago, one of the earliest sub-only tournaments in the country, actually, called Sub 1000, MMA show called Lockdown. This was 2011 or 12, a long time ago, and that was on TV on like the Active channel or something like that, but it was on TV. You know, is it going to be on
Sky?
Yeah, I do.
But the goal is to show it to masses, because, like, you know, that's a natural selection. Then those people may decide, oh, I would like to try it or not. But if they're not aware that such a thing like jiu-jitsu grappling exists,
well, Netflix
they have no choice.
Like documentary coming out
soon enough. It is getting bigger, you know, and compared to I've been training jiu-jitsu for a long time now, and when someone asks you what you do, 6 or 7 years ago, I say I do jiu-jitsu. They go, "Oh yeah, my nephew does that. He's a black belt." That's not Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
For 2 years, he's a black belt. Yeah.
These days, when someone asks you what you do jiu-jitsu. They go, "Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I know that. Brazilian jiu-jitsu, grappling, MMA, all of that stuff." And it's definitely getting bigger. Obviously, not to the extent that people.
But awareness is there.
But it is growing, and you can absolutely thank MMA for that. I think it's absolutely a huge part of it, but and a lot of celebrities are training nowadays.
I think Joe Rogan's another big influencer.
Joe Rogan's another big influencer.
Yeah, he does the job.
There's a lot of guys, and it's so important. Big celebrities who actually talk about jiu-jitsu, like in the UK, Russell Brand.
Yeah.
Like talks about jiu-jitsu, and he has a huge reach. Guys like Tom Hardy train jiu-jitsu and talk about it. Henry Cavill trains jiu-jitsu and post about. This is going out to not only a much wider audience, but a new generation. Yeah, these are kids who look up to these people.
Keanu Reeves now is like so top, and he's showing his footage from training. Yeah.
Have you actually seen any blowback from Russell Brand training? Has anyone came in and said to you? No.
It's a really good question, man. That's a really good follow-up question. Which is like I can say, jiu-jitsu is getting more aware, but no one's come in and said I'm starting jiu-jitsu because I saw Russell Brand do it. But you never know. It's one of those things with it's social media is advertising. Yeah. Okay. It's all advertising. They make their money from advertising, and when you have an Instagram page, you're advertising yourself. It might not be on purpose, but subliminally, that's what you're doing. When Coca-Cola put a billboard up, nobody walks into a shop and goes, "I want to buy this Coca-Cola because I saw the billboard."
Yeah.
But when you start putting these things out there, it gets into people's subconscious. So when someone watches a video about Russell Brand training jiu-jitsu and they forget about it, and then 3 years later they're walking past a gym and it says Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they go, and they might not even remember where they saw that, but they have some idea of what it is, and they go in there and they check it out.
Yeah, no, because I remember anytime someone new comes in, I always used to ask them about MMA and who their favorite fighter was. And then it came to a point when Conor started. Everyone was Conor.
Well, you're in Ireland as well, so. Yeah.
And I was so surprised. Like, Conor? Okay, oh yeah, I guess so. I guess that's obvious.
But he's a legitimate. The MMA is different.
Yeah.
MMA is the UFC is a $4 billion industry. Worth over billions and billions of dollars. Yeah. It's absolutely huge. Celebrities go to all of the events and stuff like that, but the athletes are becoming celebrities in their own right. You have guys. There's been certain individuals who've pushed it to the next level every single time. Chuck Liddell was the first one.
Yeah.
Chuck Liddell took it from a small sport into a mainstream sport, really almost single-handedly. He was the rock star. He was the big name at one point.
Yeah. Iceman was
he was huge, and he had the image that they wanted to portray at the time. Then it was Ronda Rousey. She took it to the next level. She got, she's in WWE now. She's holding belts in WWE. She was on Conan. She was on Jimmy Kimmel. She was a legitimate mainstream. Star. She was in The Expendables. She was a mainstream superstar. Yeah. Conor McGregor was the next one. Having fights with the Mayweather fight, one of the biggest fights of all time. He's on Conan, he's on Kimmel, he's on the talk shows. When you start getting on but then guys like Daniel Cormier's on them, guys like John Jones is on them. So they're really breaking through into mainstream.
Diaz brothers,
they really are. Yeah. And we as jiu-jitsu people do have the privilege of piggybacking off of mixed martial arts.
Yeah, that's a huge thing of it, because like. Now you get the odd person coming in and say, "Oh, I'll listen to Joe Rogan." I know Spencer, who trains here. Yeah. He said because we were talking about MMA. He goes, "Oh, I don't like MMA."
Yeah.
All right, but you do. Why are you doing jiu-jitsu? Yeah. He goes, "Oh, Joe Rogan," and that was the first time I ever heard someone reference Joe Rogan. And even when I'm in work and people go, "What sport do you do?"
So sometimes we just don't realize how many good job other people doing for us to advertise our sports, our gyms, and.
Yeah, Joe Rogan is one of the most, when it comes to 18 to 40-year-old men, he's one of the most powerful influencers in the world. Yeah, genuinely.
Yeah, because I was looking at Fionn Davis, Welsh grappler. Yeah, and I was kind of like, what she accomplished last year. I was like, that could arguably make her female athlete of the year. She at least deserves to be in the running, but I don't think, because it isn't on TV. and there isn't enough of a kind of a following of grappling yet to make that aware of how big of a thing she did.
Yeah, like compare what Fionn did in last year
of the charts,
or in the last 12, 18 months.
Yeah.
Like put that in as a tennis player.
Yeah.
Put that as a cyclist or as a sprinter.
They will be superstar everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Commercial contracts, all the shit. Yeah.
But that's the thing, like in a way, there needs to be people who are fighting and working to try and make jiu-jitsu closer to that mainstream sport. Opposed to fighting to try and make sure that they're the biggest fish in the small pond, you know.
But Dan, I really think it's going in the good direction.
Oh,
I really think so, guys. I started in 1996.
Yeah.
When I said to someone jiu-jitsu,
yeah,
karate, it's kind of karate or kickboxing. Yeah. There was no awareness at all. You know,
it's definitely getting better.
Jiu-jitsu was only for crazy fuckers.
Yeah.
Like mental people, you know. Now it's different. Now we have doctors.
Yeah.
School. We have Thomas. He's a professor in the university. Yeah. He's teaching math. You know what I mean?
I love looking around. This is the thing that happens on all mats in jiu-jitsu. You look around the mats and you'll see firemen.
Everyone trains jiu-jitsu now.
Guys studying law. Then you'll have a bin man. Then you'll have a student. You'll have everybody on the
That's phenomenal.
It's a beautiful equalizer of men. Yeah.
Because you have like tennis. Tennis is for elites. You know. You have golf for rich people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu is like really like all of us can train. Yeah.
All right, Dan. I'm gonna actually leave that there. I think
awesome,
I think that's a nice place to end it.
Yeah, that was wicked. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, we've got about 40 minutes. That's
beautiful.
Thank you very much for coming, Dan.
Mariusz, thanks for having you on again as well.
Thank you for having me.
And
thanks, Mark.
Talk to everyone next week.